My name is Christian Allen.
Good to meet you, Christian.
Yeah.
Now, we've met many times before.
Yes, we have.
We've attended Blue Lodge together quite a few times and participated in some degree work. So tell me, what does Masonry mean to you?
Masonry to me is a organization that men can join to become better. I had my psychology teacher once asked me, what rites of passage do we have as Americans? And I said, we don't. I actually kind of joked around. I said, well, when you pay bills, that's when you're an adult. Once you have a Costco membership, you were kind of like that 30-year, but it made me think, in our society, we don't have any rites of passage, really. We don't have anything that brings meaning to young people. So I believe that Freemasonry is a good system that allows young people to have something to be a part of and belong.
What inspired you to join Masonry?
This is one of the most important questions I think we're going to talk about. Originally, I grew up in the church all of my life, in the Christian church, and I used to lead youth worship, and I used to be very a part of the church. Go to church maybe 3 times a week, type of person. I joined the military, and I didn't have that ability to go to church as much. But when I got out of the military, I searched around my community, and I found there was 2 instances that caused me to change my views of what my needs were. The first church I went to was a pretty big one in our community. And I was going to the orientation. It was about showing different Bible studies in different groups, different cadres. And I remember I was talking to this older gentleman, and I was 24 at the time. And I asked this gentleman, hey, can I, he was telling me about his Bible study, and it was really great stuff. Oh, we have chili and different things like that. And I asked him, can I join? As a young 24, I'd like to join a group of men that are older than me that can help me through life. And unfortunately, this gentleman said that, sorry, my Bible study is full at the moment. And for me, when I grew up on Maui in Hawaii, I never ever experienced rejection from the church before. And I was, it was kind of hurt. It kind of hurt a little bit. But that was one of the first instances that made me kind of see different aspects of just human nature. The second experience I had was I went to another church in our community, and it was it doesn't matter what denomination, but I was very excited to attend this specific church. And what ended up happening is the worship was good. I ended up going to attending the sermon and listening to the sermon. The sermon was good until the last third of the sermon, where the preacher went off on, if you're not tithing, there's a tithing message, which isn't a bad thing, but what happened was this preacher told our congregation that if you're not tithing 10%, to get out of my church if you're not tithing 10%. And I looked around, I looked at everybody, and everyone was just like, no one said anything. And it really bothered me. And it really bothered me that someone in a certain leadership position is telling their congregation to get out and to boasting that I tithe more than 10%. That was... At that point, I realized that I used to believe that Freemasonry was a sinister organization, and I was all about the conspiracies. And what happened is that through my journey trying to find a church, I realized one thing, that if Freemasonry is a sinister organization, it can't be any worse than what I'm seeing today in the church. And that is what caused me to go out and experience Freemasonry. I looked at which lodges meet where, and this Colorado Springs lodge number 76 was met on a Tuesday, which I was available, and I came and I met some of the nicest people I've ever met. And this testament is not to say that the Christian church is wrong or bad. It just shows that sometimes different organizations are for different people. Just because people are in this church doesn't mean that they are bad people. I just found that through these experiences, it's led me to have, to give me the confidence to go and search something different. And since then, I've learned about so many different cultures and so many different religions. As we know that Freemasonry, you could be part of. Most religions can join Freemasonry, and that gave me a broader aspect. It opened up my eyes to new experiences and new people and new belief systems. And that I use that testimony all the time because a lot of today's media is very anti-Masonic, and I like to share that with people. I like to share that we're just normal people trying to learn to be better people, and that should happen in all these different religions. We should try to learn how to be better people, and that's my experience with that.
Would you consider Freemasonry to be a church?
So Freemasonry is not a religion. It's just it's an organization you can join to learn different symbols. And the best way I explain this is, imagine if people who I would say people who sew like do knitting and whatnot. People who sew and do that sort of work, it's kind of rare these days versus when our parents and our grandparents, that was more common to work with a sewing machine. I like to think of Freemasonry as a craft that you look at certain things like, say, a sewing machine, and you look at a sewing machine or a needle or different aspects of thread, and you find meaning in it. You find meaning in the needle and how that could unite people, and uniting the seams of clothing to be able to teach people, hey, this is what we could do. This is a tool that we could use to bring people together. And maybe this is a thing that we could do for another aspect. But I believe Freemasonry is not a religion, just like having a sewing machine and teaching this philosophy of sewing, in their tools. It's not a religion either. It's understanding a craft. It could have been carpentry, but it's stole masonry is what we as Masons use, that craft. But it could have been carpentry, it could have been sewing. It's just we're taking the craft and we're looking at the things that they've used to build, right? Or just like in the sewing machine, things to bring together, and we're finding meaning in it to hopefully inspire people to be better, to use the philosophy to better their lives.
What are some things that you wish that you had known before joining Masonry, or that prospective candidates might benefit from knowing to help them know whether this is for them or not before they, make a lifelong commitment?
Sure. I think one of the biggest things is understanding that Freemasonry is not like a club. It's not you reach for a certain degree to have some amazing experience. It's come here to serve. Come here to serve your community. Come here to learn. Come here to learn about others, and come here to learn about yourself. And I wish that's something that Freemasonry would speak more about. Because I think one of the biggest things we say is making good men better. But the big part of that is learning about yourself. So I think emphasizing, come here to learn. Come here to learn. I think that's going to be a good thing to tell young prospects. The other thing I would say is, it's our world today with all of our social media. We're the loneliest people today. Although we have connections, we can connect with people all around the world. Somehow we're experiencing the highest levels of loneliness. Come here if you want to make friends. Don't come here if you're just trying to attain a certain degree, or you're trying to come here to please certain parts of your ego. Come here to serve, come here to learn, and come here to make friendships, lasting, meaningful friendships that will carry on throughout the ages. I think that's what people should know about us, is that come here for good relationships, good friendships.
How do you feel about memorization?
In Freemasonry, there are things that we memorize, and I think it's a good tool to push ourselves to have goals and realize that we can attain these goals. It teaches a lesson of life, really, that the things you memorize is just a tool to better you. It's just something that you could use, just like, for example, a sewing machine. We're going to start off fumbling, and our seams are going to be messed up, but you work on it every single time, And when you work on it every single time, a little bit at a time, different patterns or different things like that, you become better with repetition. So I enjoy it. I enjoy the memory work, and it's been great. I don't always get time to study, but it's something that I know that it really does help my brain, and it helps me understand the different concepts of Freemasonry in a deeper way.
Without discussing the actual events of it, can you tell me anything about what you were feeling emotionally before, during, and after your initiation into Freemasonry?
Before my initiation, I did my initiation in a place called Rama, Colorado. It's a small, very small city on the east side of Colorado Springs. I thought, honestly, man, they're taking me out here to the wilderness. Kind of nervous a little bit, but man, if something happens, I'll take these old guys down. They're not gonna take me down. That's initially my first thought, because being in the Army, you're not gonna let these threats happen to you, right? My first thought was that I was like, oh, okay, they're taking me kind of far away. Maybe I should send my location just in case, right? Send my location to my family just in case. That was my first thought. The second thought, when I was actually there, I realized one of the beautiful things about Freemasonry is that a lot of these lodges have low membership. So what happens is that Masons from all different lodges in different parts of different cities will come and be a part of your initiation. When I met people, these friendly men, that I'm in this lodge or I'm in this lodge, and they all drove out to this wilderness place for me, it really meant something. It really showed me brotherly love. It showed me that I'm a stranger to these people, but they love me enough to drive out here to do this initiation with me. And that was one of the biggest things that has set the mood for how I approach Freemasonry and how I interact with people who are trying to come in. After initiation, you're in awe, because you're like, wow, that's so much to try and learn, And luckily, I was able to watch a degree afterwards, and every time you see it, it's like you learn something new. But the first time I got to, it was a lot to learn, and it gave me something to learn about, to search on my own time about, and to learn deeper concepts to better myself.
You and I have worked together in an initiation or two, haven't we?
Yes, we have. Yeah. Teller County.
It is it can be a fun thing when you're getting the candidate ready.
Yes, yeah.
Especially because they don't know what to expect.
Right.
And
we've all done it. We've all been there.
And even though there's nothing that's actually going to hurt them or anything during the initiation, for me it's kind of a fun thing to give them a bit of a hard time.
Always send your location. Always send your location. I always make sure my family knows, hey, just in case,
I like to stoke the fires of, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into?
Sure, yep. That definitely goes through your mind, yeah.
Are you a member of any other appendant bodies?
So I'm a part of 3 different Blue Lodges. I am a 32nd degree in the Scottish Rite here in this jurisdiction. That's all.
What could you explain to somebody as the difference in Scottish Rite and Blue Lodge?
I would say Blue Lodge is just the fundamental. It's the basics. It's you join this organization to learn what all Scottish Rite Masons have already learned, what all York Rite Masons have learned, what all Shriners have learned. You join this first to learn how to be a good Mason. Now, Scottish Rite, I would consider, many call it the University of Freemasonry. And I think Scottish Rite Freemasonry is more grabbing these concepts and expanding them and learning more philosophy to try and make more meaning of this experience, this Masonic experience. Yeah, I think that's the best way to describe it. It's a University of Freemasonry, and Blue Lodge is you becoming a Mason and learning how to be a Mason.
Is a third degree Master Mason obligated to continue on to Scottish Rite?
I actually just had this conversation with a future candidate. No, and I argue that many people might say otherwise, but my opinion is that the third degree, once you're a Master Mason, that's the highest degree you can attain. All the rest are extra activities and extra organizations you can join to expand your thought process, expand it. But third degree Master Mason is the highest degree in my opinion. And no one has to join extra organizations, and lots of times a lot of people cannot afford to join all these different organizations. So for example, I became a Mason, I think in 2018. I joined the Scottish Rite, I think just last year. I joined in 2023. It took me, I just wasn't ready yet. I didn't have the time to go and do that. So a lot of people, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. You don't have to feel obligated to do it. But I've always placed Blue Lodge as the main primary medium, the main primary thing that I like to go and visit and do and participate in.
What kind of person would be well suited for Scottish Rite?
Scottish Rite? People who are ready to love others with other belief systems. Scottish Rite Masonry is a tool, I feel, to expand your mind and your perception of life and your belief systems. And I believe when you have a good environment to have communication with other people with different belief systems, different religious beliefs, different political beliefs, and you have a place where you can talk about these ideas and concepts in a safe environment without being chastised, I think that's people who are ready to have those types of conversations should join the Scottish Rite. I think lots of people in today's world probably wouldn't enjoy that, because in our society today, it seems very much where we're dehumanizing each other, and we're saying you're this political party or this, and well, you must be this and you must be that, and if you have this idea, you must be this, and we place all these ideas and assumptions on people that aren't true. You know, there's always that middle where you could agree with this idea and this idea, and I feel Scottish Rite Freemasonry allows for an environment to have these conversations without being hostile. You know, that's a great thing, and that's what the world needs right now. It's because it's so easy to be like, I'm this or I'm that, and really, these both sides, they all want what's best for mankind, and somehow we fall to this idea that just because you have this belief, you must be this, and it's harmful to society. And I truly believe Scottish Rite Freemasonry has the ability to bring these people together and have conversations in a healthy manner.
My grandfather was a Mason. He was a Scottish Rite, and my mom, she lived in the Scottish Rite dormitories at University of Texas.
Wow.
In Austin. And through all of that, when I joined Masonry in 2022, my mom was still under the impression that Masonry and Scottish Rite was exclusively Christian. Is that the case? And would someone who is not Christian feel comfortable in Blue Lodge Masonry and Scottish Rite?
So I've only been to lodges within Colorado. I will say that predominantly, that's the word I will use, predominantly it is Christian. However, I have brothers that are Muslim. I have brothers who are Buddhist. It really comes down to the lodge culture. You know, people, it's the people of the lodge that will make it feel a certain way, comfortable or uncomfortable. And just like any organization, that can happen. Although I have not experienced that myself, it could be foreign to a Muslim brother or a Buddhist brother, some ideas. But the whole point of it is to learn from the ideas. And I assume that in different parts of the world, in different lodges in the world, there's going to be times where a Christian might be surrounded by Muslims, or a Buddhist might be the predominant religion in the lodge, of the lodge, the culture. That doesn't mean that I would feel my brothers don't love me, or it would be different anyway in that manner. I think it's it's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful that I could go to probably somewhere in Asia and see a different, although we have all these teachings, but see it in a different culture.
Do Blue Lodges or Scottish Rite for that matter, do they push you to believe or put faith in one religion or the other?
So 100%, we are not allowed to talk about religion or politics in Blue Lodge. This is a fundamental, this is necessary, because these are two things that can tear people apart. And the beautiful thing about Freemasonry is because of the rule of not projecting your religious ideas or political ideas, we are able to love each other deeper and realize, oh, he's a Buddhist, and I can get down and hang out with this guy, and he's an amazing person. Or he's a Muslim, and this guy's an amazing person. And I think this is it. The day that we start bringing religion and politics into the lodge is the day Freemasonry dies. Honestly, that's what it comes down to. No, Freemasonry does not push any religion or political ideas onto their members.
Are there any misconceptions about Freemasonry that you think that should be addressed or corrected?
Most certainly. We kind of talked about it earlier in one of the questions. It's not some sinister organization. It's not the Illuminati. You're not going to gain any type of financial benefits from being a part of this organization. In fact, like I said earlier, come here if you want to serve your community. Come here if you want to serve. Sometimes that means serving financially to help the poor. Sometimes it means spending your time to be at a homeless shelter and pass out food. You're not going to join Freemasonry and become a millionaire. Like, that's one thing that people should understand. And it's not as sinister as everyone wants to make it seem. None of it's a secret. None of it's a secret, especially when we live in the internet age where everything can be found on the internet. But you will never know what it really is until you actually do it. So you might see some things on the internet. You don't know. You're assuming that you know that Freemasonry is a sinister organization. Well, you don't know because you're not a Mason. And you'll never know until you try and do it. And a lot of times when I tell people that are joining Freemasonry, I say, just see it through. See it through, get to your Master Mason degree, and if you want to leave Freemasonry, you can leave Freemasonry. I always advocate for the choice to leave. But if you don't do it, you can never really know what it is. So I feel that's one thing that people should know. It's not some organization that is ruling the world. Because like I said before, I was a conspiracy guy. I thought that. I thought Freemasons, they're the ones that's causing all this havoc in the world. Wow. Was I wrong, right? Freemasons are some of the nicest people I've ever met in my entire life. The nicest people. And I think that's something that the misconceptions that we're old dudes. I'm not an old dude, right? We're old dudes with aprons and you're sitting around doing something sinister, doing sacrifices. No. We're just trying to find ways to better ourselves and to better our community.
Speaking of ritual, people hear the term ritual and they think, pagan ritual, sacrifice, things like that. But at its core definition, what is a ritual?
If you wake up in the morning and you brush your teeth, that's a ritual. If you have breakfast at a certain time or you have coffee with your breakfast, that's a ritual. You're doing something that you do all the time, every day in a certain way. It's not some sinister thing. It's something that you do.
Smoking cigarettes is described as being addictive because of the ritual component.
Sure, yeah.
Of,
social.
Of packing the cigarettes, of opening it, removing it, the flicking of the lighter.
Sure.
There's all of these things that you do that are the same every time.
Try fly fishing. One of my hobbies is fly fishing. It's definitely, you do things a certain way to get better results. People who are a part of a Christian religion and taking communion, that's a ritual. If you're not a Christian, you might think it's kind of weird. You're eating what to represent what? Kind of weird. The Pledge of Allegiance. If you're not American, it could be kind of weird. It could be kind of strange. but none of it's sinister. It's of people who are trying. It's a thing that we do to teach. And what in Freemasonry makes that beautiful is that I can go to a Mason in a different country and they've done exactly what I've done. We do certain things that are ritualistic. It's not, like I said, it's not a sinister thing.
The ultimate goal of Masonry is not world domination, but rather, what is the ultimate goal of Masonry?
Really, the right answer is probably to make good men better. But I would argue it's to learn to love. I would say it's to learn to love. Even in my journey in Christianity, I truly believe that one of the greatest lessons is to learn to love. To learn to love. Once you learn that, I feel this world will become a better place. And I argue that Freemasonry allows a environment for that to thrive, an environment for you to love others and love yourself, and to give love to your community by serving your community. So that's why I think the goal of Freemasonry is to me.
Well, Christian, thank you for your time, and thanks for sharing your thoughts about this fraternity of ours.
Yeah.
So